You can be content that whatever I have, I'm content because I am in communion with God, but I am not complacent to stay here.
Hey, welcome to Ascend the Hill with Jeremy Austill. I'm Jonathan. This is Pastor Jeremy. How's it going?
It's going well. I've already said it off screen. I might as well say it on screen. I woke up today ticked off, and it's because Kingston and I carved jack-o'-lanterns last night and put the candle in. I love that. It's a whole vibe when you've got a carved pumpkin with a like a legit candle, not the fake thing, inside of it, and you go stand and look at your house. It's like, that just looks cool.
Yeah.
Woke up this morning, the dumb deer in my neighborhood had decimated them, pulled them off like off the porch, ripped them to shreds, ate half of them. I mean, I was just furious. I can't stand them things. They eat my mums.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you pay $25 for like this big thing of mums,
Yeah.
and they eat it. And I thought, man, I've got my mums deep enough on my porch, they won't mess with it. They don't mess with the purple mums, but they like the yellow ones, and so they've been nibbling on that.
Oh, my God. Now, the layout of your house, are you in a neighborhood? Or are you next to woods? Or
No, neighborhood.
So
like
they like
straight up neighborhood.
they're coming deep into the neighborhood to do stuff?
I mean, they live in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They lay in our yards. I mean,
It's like a gang or outlaws or something.
I mean, it's not. It's not even. Of course, we got skunks like crazy now too. I pulled up the other night, and there's a skunk in my front yard. And It's just like great. The other night, Kingston and I were coming back from something late night, and I can't remember what it was, but we pulled up, and my lights hit the backyard, and a skunk ran across the backyard under my back deck.
Nice.
And I thought, this is incredible. So it's like, let's go in a different door. We're not going in the back deck door. So, man, it's like a whole wildlife preserve. We need some coyotes to be released in our neighborhood. It's kind of what it feels like. We need some predators because this is getting out of control.
Wildcats.
Yes.
Weren't wolves at one point populous in the South? Wolves?
I don't know. We need to transplant them back. Bring me some wolves. Something like it's out of control. So
my goodness. Well, despite all the shenanigans brought on by nature, it was a good weekend, and it was a great Sunday. Continuing our series, Fear, and talking out the perhaps of fear. But before we get into the sermon from Sunday, we're going to dive last week we did some like would you rather for fear. So we're going a little bit more specific with specific phobias, would you rathers, that I think would be pretty fun. So here we go. This first one, this one for church specific. Here we go. Would you rather have a fear of germs and have to shake hands at church with everyone, or have a fear of being alone and have to stay in the church building overnight?
I'd rather do the be alone, stay in the church building overnight. Oh, yes, because the germ thing is real.
Yeah.
I mean, that you get germs, you get sick. I mean, I've probably shared on the podcast in years past how all those years working at Camp Jackson around all those teenagers, like over time, I developed a system of operations that minimized the amount of times I got sick in the summer. And it was things like open doors using my shirt, my shirt tail, like stuff like that, just to avoid the germs. Now, on a Sunday, I don't. I shake hands. I interact with people, knowing I'm at risk, of getting sick. You just try to wash your hands a lot. But like the end result of germs is sickness, so I don't want any part of that. Like the end result of staying alone in the church is you wake up in the morning and you're okay.
I will say, if you've ever been to Cornerstone, it's very large, and there's been a few times like over the 9 years that I've been here that I've been at the church like late at night and dark. I'm the one setting the alarm because I'm leaving doing a project or something, and the pumps from the baptismal from far away, they reverberate in our large lower commons area. And the way they reverberate sometimes sounds like, when it's coupled with the water trickling, it sounds like people are talking in the lower commons.
Oh, my gosh.
So when you're alone and you are about to set the alarm and you hear this, you're like, are there people here? And you go in there and you're like, hello? And it's like echoing. Yeah. So, but I get the germ thing. That's wild. All right. Would you rather be afraid of bugs and have to camp outdoors, or have a fear of embarrassment and accidentally trip in a crowd full of people?
I think I'd rather be afraid of bugs and have to sleep outdoors.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, bugs aren't going to hurt you, generally speaking.
Yeah.
Because spiders aren't bugs. They're arachnids, you know.
Oh, okay.
Snakes aren't bugs.
Mm-hmm.
They're snakes.
Yeah.
And so bees aren't bugs, are they?
I don't know. Are they?
I don't think so.
Let us know.
So bottom line is I'd rather do that. Now, speaking of falling in front of people, a couple of years ago, Kingston and I went to a Tennessee game, and I'm walking with my, right at cusp of teenage son at that time.
Yeah.
And big crowds. There's a spot on the campus where there's the torch bearers, this statue that's got a torch that's always burning. And there's kind of these awkward steps that come off of that area. And me and Kingston were walking, and I did not calculate the unevenness of the steps, and I fell, as in I started the process of falling and knew I was not going to be able to stay up. So I just kind of rolled across, I just kind of did a little somersault roll, and there were people everywhere. And of course he's like, "Dad, are you okay? What's wrong? Are you okay?" And I got up, and of course at that point you don't know anybody, so it's not as big a deal other than I know he's probably thinking, "My gosh, my dad is such a klutz." And of course with that fall, here's the thing about falling at my age, embarrassment's nothing. You just hope you get up and you haven't injured yourself.
Yeah, you're not hurt. Yeah.
Right. So I got up and started checking, and it's like, okay, nothing hurts. And that's fine. Like, initial check, nothing hurts. But again, you're my age and older, and you know that 10 minutes later, 2 hours later, you might suddenly realize, oh, I hurt myself.
Yeah.
So I spent the rest of the day going, okay, when is something going to start hurting? So yeah, I know, embarrassing yourself. People fall, it's no big deal, but you just don't want to get hurt.
Are you the person? So when you fell, are you the person that it will look like you're more hurt than you are because you'll just lay there still for a second and calibrate yourself, make sure you'll do the check.
No, I got up as quick as I could.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm being super reflexive. It's just like I went down, got up.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, years ago, I was in a car accident, and I think I've told this to the church. There was an intersection, and a car turned left on me. I had the right of way. They didn't have a green arrow, but they turned left on me, and I hit them, careened off them, hit a big metal pole. I mean, so instinctive. I didn't, the second everything stopped, I throw the door open. I'm out of the truck, out of my car. Again, I'm a reactor.
Yeah.
I'm not and so even something happens, it's like boom, boom, boom. I'm moving on, So anyway, I don't know why I told that.
No. And the last one, would you rather be afraid of the dentist and have to get a root canal without anesthesia, or have a fear of spiders and find a spider in your bed every night for a week?
Oh, give me the spider.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that whole, if you're, it's hard to, with these would you rathers here, it's hard to put yourself in the position of being afraid of that. Because I'm way more nervous about a root canal than I am a spider in general. And so I don't want a root canal ever.
Yep.
I have a tooth way back in the back that at one point in time in my 20s was bad, and they're like, we can either do a root canal for $1,500.
Yeah.
And it's probably triple that now, or we can pull the tooth for $125. And I said, pull it. Not only is this saving money, this is saving me torture.
Yeah.
So yank that joker out.
I got a Benjamin, just pull the tooth.
Right. I got a little gap back here because of that. But I don't want a root canal, and I've read stuff. I mean, this is way off the grid, of our conversation, but I've read stuff like that root canals aren't necessarily good for you because you are leaving something dead in you.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I haven't verified that.
Yeah.
I'm no scientist or physician, but I do know this, that I don't like going to the dentist.
Yes.
Not scared of it, but even for a cleaning, because I like to swallow. I don't know how to describe it other than that. And I guess I produce a significant amount of saliva. And so when you're laying there with your mouth open and they're doing stuff, I'll start getting a little panicky. Like, okay, I need to swallow.
Yes.
Can you get your hand out of my, like, I feel like I'm drowning.
Yep. 100%. You're waiting there and you're just like, there's been a few times where I've accidentally, because it just naturally happens. So if they don't do the little suction thing soon enough, there's been a few times where I just involuntary, just like, and then stuff,
Ooh,
the spit will fly a little bit.
Hey,
and it's
you
like,
should have been quicker with the suction thing.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what to tell you. And
how, I am very self-conscious at the day. It's like, I want to be a good patient.
Yeah.
Like I want to, of course, this is my personality anyway. I want to be the bbest patient you've ever had.
Yeah.
So like, I want to be a great patient. I don't want to be, the guy that's over here gagging. I want them to be like, your teeth look great. I want to win. I want to excel at the dentist, but I don't love it for sure.
Well, talking about all these phobias, a reminder from Sunday that safety and security can be an idol. So
yes.
But in all seriousness, on Sunday we talked about perhaps as it relates to fear, and really about having faith in God, and the stance of maybe it couldn't work out, but having the mindset of, well, if the Lord's with us, maybe it can work out. So we're going to focus on that rather than the negative.
Yes.
And so I guess to kind of start off, if when it comes to like making decisions, safety and security, I was joking, but we did talk about one of the points was safety and security can be an idol when it influences our decision making. So, some people out there hear that and they're like, well, so if the decision is not safe and secure, does that mean it's then the will of God? Like, how do I make sure I navigate that, or which order is the right order for that to have perspective,
Yeah. And I said it in the message, and I want to reiterate it. Like, I don't have a morally negative feeling toward wanting to feel safe or wanting to feel secure. Those are like core human desires that are not bad desires in the slightest. To protect yourself, to try to create as good a life scenario as you can for yourself. But I'm mindful of it from the perspective of, I'm afraid of lack.
Mm-hmm.
And so every financial decision I make will be to try to avoid lack, which then leads me to make financial decisions that aren't faith-filled or faithful to the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I don't want to lack, and so I might not tithe. I don't want to lack, so I might not give generously the way the Lord wants me to. I don't want to lack, and so I will work extra. I'll exhaust myself to create a sense of security in my finances, and all the while I'm not expending myself well as a husband or a father. And so it's in that vein, or the sense of you can really make it simple, but it's not super applicable to everybody. But I've worked with through the years with people who feel a call to the mission field. We had some missionaries a few weeks back that spoke that were from a nation where they're really not allowed to do what they're doing, but they're doing it. And if they would have prioritized safety and security, they would have said no to the call of God, right? Safety and security will prevent you from starting that business. I'm just going to stay here. I wish I was at a higher level, but I'd rather be here and feel safe and secure than really take a chance on what God's put in my heart. Safety and security of, I'm not going to put myself out there relationally because I got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are people that safety and security has, and I say this with a lot of sensitivity, but they have extracted themselves from church or from engaging in the church deeply because they got hurt before. And now protecting themselves is a higher priority than spiritual progress, right? So that's what I mean by it. Like, you have to be really careful that it doesn't become so important to you that it deters you from doing what the Lord wants you to do. And understanding simultaneously that most of the time, if you're doing what God has assigned to you and what God wants you to do, it is going to put you in a place where faith is required. And if faith is required, that means there is a measure of uncertainty. You can be certain in God, but you're not certain of the outcomes. And so obedience to the Lord, faithfulness to his call and his plans on your life inevitably puts us in places where our safety and security, or what we have presumed our safety and security is, gets threatened. It gets challenged. And that's kind of why in the message I alluded to, Saul, I think, found safety and security in hiding. He found it in his troops. He found it in areas that eventually were gone. They were stripped from him. Like, he got stripped of everything that would have made him feel comfortable. And so, you never want to get to the point where you're stripped of everything. So then you finally do the faith thing, right? Let me do the faith thing along the way. And I think all of us, we get to different levels or different seasons of life, and we feel really comfortable. We feel really safe, really secure. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But depending on your age, there's probably more meat on the bone for you, so to speak. There's more life to be lived. God has more dreams, more advancement for you. And oftentimes, the only way you can get into the thing God has for you that's more, that's better, that's in game, is you have to let go of what has become safe and secure and comfortable to you. I'll just give a personal example. And again, this is more self-indulgent. It's about me. And so I'm not 100% sure how applicable it is. But when we were district youth directors for 10 years, like, I got really safe and secure in that. My salary's solid. I'm loved. It's grown. I kind of can set my own life, my own schedule. I know all the burdens and responsibilities. I have low stress. I've got my mind wrapped around this to the degree that, like, I'm even able to take on more responsibilities because I've got this one under control. My little life is nice and quaint. I'm in a rhythm with my kids. I have a safe, secure, comfortable life right here, right? Well, then here comes Cornerstone. Yeah. Right? And it disrupts all of that because, like, I'm over here, there's no risk here. Like, I've got a job. I know I have a job. I've got tons of favor. I'm loved. I'm respected. I'm not dealing with stress because I kind of worked through all of that. And now I have an understanding of the world around me. And now I'm taking on something completely new, a type of responsibility I've never had. I went from being responsible for no employee's salary to, 26-something people's livelihood, but the only way I was going to cross over into what God had for me was to relinquish the safety, security, and comfort that I had established in that previous season. That's just kind of the way it goes in progression. You want to have kids? Awesome. You're going to have to let go of some of the certainty, safety, security, comforts in order to cross over into having kids. That's just part of it. And unfortunately, you meet a lot of people that get to a spot in life. I don't know that people start this way, but you get to a spot in life where it's just like, I just really like the way things are. Yeah. And what becomes problematic is if you begin to like the way things are to the degree that you begin to shut out the possibility that the Lord wants to lead you into new horizons, new fields. So that's that.
Yeah. Well, and it seemed too, because you mentioned Saul, and it seemed too like there was a little bit of an attitude of like, well, I'll kind of do it myself. Yeah. Like, he could have waited on the Lord, but because of his fear too, he was just like, well, I just need to do it myself. Yeah. And that seemed pretty prevalent in when you're talking about this, him making his sacrifice rather than waiting for the prophet to do the right thing the right way.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, do you think that also applies to this situation where we're in a situation where we're dealing with fear? We need to have the perhaps mentality, but perhaps we have the mentality of, you know what, I just need to make it happen now.
Yeah. Well, we talked about control in the message, and I probably didn't do it justice. I probably could spend a whole week talking about it because it's something that I wrestle with. And not even, not as much as like, oh, I'm trying to control Jonathan.
Yeah.
But I want to control as many variables as I can.
Yeah.
And the way it manifests in me is overthinking. I will take something that should not be that complicated a decision, or in my gut, in my knower, and the wisdom of others, like here's what we need to do. But I will overthink every piece of it, trying to make sure that I have everything under control, and to make sure that whatever happens in the aftermath of that, I can control everything around it. And that's a matter of fear. Like you fear outcomes, you fear consequence, you fear failure, you fear making a mistake. And so when you feel like it's all on you, that's an expression of fear. Like there's just some stuff, to use this expression, even though I don't know much about gambling, like you just kind of have to let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
There's just a layer of life that I can't control every outcome. I can't control every result.
Yeah.
I can't control every situation. I cannot control people. I cannot control how people will respond to everything and how people will react to everything. I can't control how you will feel about something I do. And so there is just a layer of living free from fear that is manifest this way. Like I'm going to do what's best. I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to do what's in my heart. I'm going to do what I feel is wise. I'm going to do what I've got counsel on. And then I just kind of have to let it happen and see how it plays out. Right.
Yeah.
But that layer of, with Saul, just I'm going to do the sacrifice myself. I really believe, because on the surface, it's just like, why is this such a big deal? I mean, it was such a big deal that Samuel said, because of this, you're losing your kingdom. Your son's not going to. I mean, it was a weighty matter, but I think it was indicative of his heart, and I never want this heart as a leader or as a person in general that I don't trust the Lord, that I'm not willing to wait on him, that I'm not willing to trust him with the results if I do what's right.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I have to make it happen. I trust myself more than I trust the Lord.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just faulty. Like I'm inevitably going to get it wrong. I cannot control everything. So to put a ton of trust in myself at the expense of trust in the Lord, which causes me to maybe that manifests in not being honest, being a little manipulative. Maybe it manifests in like I'm going to work, I'm going to deny the idea of the Sabbath. I think we're in a new covenant, but the Sabbath is a really good picture.
Yeah.
The Lord told them every seventh day, you're going to not work. Every seventh year, you're not going to farm the fields. You're going to pay back debts. Basically, like the Lord's saying, like, I'm going to give you enough in the 6 that you'll be fine on the day of rest. And you'll learn on the day of rest that when you're not working, I am.
Yeah.
Right. And that whole Sabbath premise of even that it's hard for, different personality types. And it's certainly one that I struggle with.
Yeah.
That whole control thing is exhausting. There are people that are listening to this podcast right now. You're tired.
Yeah.
And you're mentally drained. You're emotionally drained. And I would just submit it's possible. It's the reason you're feeling those things and the reason you're experiencing that is because you are exhausting yourself trying to control stuff, everything. And like when you're trying to control, there is extra mental exertion you're having to put in. There's extra relational exertion you're having to put in. There's extra hour exertion that you're having to put in. And I mean, there's the fine line of being detailed, of being diligent, of being a hard worker. There's a fine line,
Yeah.
But it can spill over into this self-reliance or this fear. And I can say 100% personally, like it's exhausting. And when I kick into that mode,
yeah.
Again, it doesn't manifest in like being dictatorial. I'm not going to be a jerk out of it. It's a lot of it's in here and in my mind and in my soul, like all of the extra that I'm trying to do to make sure everything works out just right. And when I slip into it, it wears me down. Work doesn't burn you out. Control burns you out. Like work, relationships don't burn you out. Trying to control them does, right? That's so when people, our school of ministry students will be like, they're like 20 asking about burnout. I'm like, first off, you're 20. you ain't burning out. Like, what are you talking about? And if y'all are listening, don't worry about burnout.
Yeah.
Just burn, right?
Yeah.
Just burn. But they'll ask about it. And I told them at one point, I don't even really believe in that. I mean, I do. I know it happens. I know it's real. But burnout is a manifestation of an unhealthy soul. And often it's a manifestation of somebody who's trying to control everything. It wears you down.
Yeah. Yeah. And it reminds me of this picture of like when you're a kid, you're like doing a bike race. And this is from an episode of a show I watched a long time ago, but like you're doing a bike race and you're trying to do everything with your bike to make it go as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You're like, and also make it look cool. So I don't know if you did it, you had like the cards to your wheel to make it click.
Yeah.
And then you had the bell, you had the cool things. And then you end up losing the race. And it's like, well, how did you lose the race? Well, the kid who actually just rode the bike to the best of his ability, rode the bike. And it seems like that kind of like, you're just reminding me of that picture of just like, you're trying to do all this stuff to manipulate everything, to make everything perfect and look the right way and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the kid who just has the rinky-dink bike but just pedaled as hard as he could was the one that made it.
Yes. Well, even you saying that, like I can hear the pushback of the person that would say, well, I'm just being excellent. I'm just doing things with excellence. And that's true. Why are you doing it with excellence? Hopefully you're doing it with excellence because you do everything unto the Lord. Hopefully you're doing it with excellence because you want to serve and better the lives of other people. Hopefully you're doing it with excellence because, around here we say love is spelled details, details. Hopefully that's why you're doing it with excellence. And it's not from this maniacal thing on the inside of you that feels like you got to be perfect. And if you're not perfect, you fear failure. If you're not perfect, you fear that the situations won't go the way you want them to. And the only way you can get them to go the way you want them to is if you're perfect. And I would just say read the Bible because there was a whole lot of imperfection, but God got people where he needed to get them. You know? So obviously I'm not giving a license for laziness. I'm not giving a license for being flippant. I mean, around here, we value doing things to the best of our ability. We're our hardest critics and we critique one another and we talk pretty openly about, hey, that was good. That wasn't good, but in the end, like you have to understand all I got is my best. And I mean, boy, it's cliche and here it rolls off the tongue. All I got is my best, but God's going to do the rest. Like you just have to live in that place.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up here, I guess taking a lesson from Saul, and opening a question / encouragement for people who may have given into fear. Saul gave into fear.
Yeah.
Multiple times, not just in this one story, but it also it was weird because in the story, you juxtapose him with David. Saul does this
with Jonathan.
mess up. Well, yes, in the with Jonathan in this story. I'm saying in general. Sorry. Yes, we talked about Jonathan in the message, but like,
sorry.
No, you're good.
I cut you off.
No, you're good. Like Saul, his response to the prophet is totally different from David's response to the prophet when they mess up.
Yeah.
It like Saul doesn't seem like it phases him. David, when he messes up with Bathsheba, he does all this crazy stuff. He immediately goes into and he's like, I screwed up. Let me seek the Lord. Maybe he would have mercy on me. And it's like, do you think Saul maybe there would have been a different outcome if Saul would have at least been repentant, or there would have been at least a change in response if he would have been repentant? And then for people who have been in that situation, where they've given into fear, is there hope that maybe there could be a different outcome if they decide to recalibrate,
Yeah, I definitely think to that point, Saul had demonstrated he just was not the repentant type.
Yeah.
I think we've probably talked about it on a podcast. I think we used to preach and clip from it a few weeks back, but David wasn't a man after God's own heart because he was perfect. He was a man after God's own heart because he was contrite. He was broken. He was repentant. It was a great juxtaposition there between Nathan comes to David, weaves this anecdote, and then at the end lets David know, like, I'm talking about you. You're the one who sinned. And David's immediate response was brokenness, repentance. Saul is confronted by Samuel, and his immediate response is to explain himself, to justify why he did what he did. He almost tried to throw it back on Samuel. Well, you weren't showing up.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the matter of repentance plays a huge role. And I think ultimately the reason the Lord removed him from the throne is because there was just a lack of humility. There was a lack of repentance and contrition. Saul was always way more interested in looking right in front of people than looking right in front of God. That's even in this context, like he was doing a spiritual thing to look right in front of people instead of a spiritual thing to connect with God.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think that is a big reason why Saul found himself on the outs. But I do love what happened, and we talked about it at the end pretty quickly at the end of the message, that Jonathan, in faith, broke through, and it created breakthrough for his father and the whole nation. And so there's just something powerful about any of us making the determination that fear is not going to govern me. Like fear is not going to rule in my life. And I think you can take this account of Jonathan and live right in the middle of it and apply it to a lot of situations. There are a lot of perhaps moments in our life. Perhaps it's going to go well. Perhaps it's not. I'm going to choose to live in God will help. That's where I'm going to choose to live and believe on that. I mean, when we took this church, it's a perhaps we'll fail, perhaps we'll succeed.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose to live in the we will succeed. I'm going to live there.
Yeah.
And the beauty is when a person determines to live there, their yes, their perhaps, their come on, let's go has ripple effects for the people around you. And so just for those that are watching, those that are listening, like it matters massively that you conquer fear. It matters significantly that in that scale of perhaps you live in the perhaps God will help. God can win a battle, whether he's got a lot of warriors or he's got a few, because other people's spirituality, other people's well-being, other people's future is dependent on that. I know that we tend to live in a very individualistic society, but you read the whole of Scripture and you come away with a God who is communally oriented. And because God is communal all the way to Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, because God is communal, he kind of baked it into the cake, an expression I seem to use way more than, in these podcasts than I do in real life. But he kind of baked it in that when somebody that's in community has a breakthrough spiritually or a breakthrough emotionally, it very positively affects the communal dynamic and the community they're in. So I'm looking at people in Cornerstone and I'm saying, like, give me some folks that will live with a come on, let's go. Perhaps God will help us. He's won with many or few. And if I can get enough Cornerstoners that will live right there in that spot, the ripple effect in our church, and thus the ripple effect in the Nashville Metroplex, and the ripple effect around the planet as kingdom builders will be beyond our wildest imagination. But we have to not camp out. We can't just camp in safety and security. You can't stay where you are. There's a difference between content and complacent.
Yeah.
You can be content that whatever I have, I'm content because I am in communion with God, but I am not complacent to stay here. Like, I want to go everywhere God wants me to be. I want to squeeze every drop out of the life God has given me.
Yeah.
I could keep going.
Well, perhaps the Lord will be with you this week, and we want to help you on that journey in prayer, in community, getting you connected with the church. So connect with us.
Pause.
Yes.
Perhaps y'all are going to have a baby.
Perhaps we might. Yes, we will.
We've been, before we end, because listen, we have people that listen. I get texts from people, I get messages from people that listen, from different parts of the country, just friends that eavesdrop in. And so for all of you, Jonathan and his lovely wife, Jordan, are expecting.
Hey-o.
And we're so excited for them, just thrilled to death for what the Lord's doing in their life. They're awesome staff members, by the way. They just are when I say ripple effect, like the work they do has such a positive effect on everybody, and looking forward to holding that baby and celebrating with them as a couple. Sorry I disrupted. I just wanted to put it out there.
Well, thank you. Yeah, due date's in April, so let's go.
Yes, let's go. Come on, let's go.
Let's go. Well, make sure to connect with us, whether it's in the comments section or online, cornerstonenashville.org. We made it super easy for you to connect with us through that, or be here in person this weekend. 8:30 a.m., 10:30 a.m. on a Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Or if you can't do that, watch us online, csnlive.org. Regardless, we have you covered when it comes to connection at the church. So remember this week, don't fear, but have the attitude of perhaps and the attitude of let's go, and just go for it and trust the Lord in the process. And we'll see you next time on Ascend the Hill.